Hello, everybody. I'm George from Wines by Nature, and I'm here with Frank from the Wading River Market, formerly known as My Butcher, but still a butcher shop. So, welcome, Frank.
Thanks for having me, George.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So you're still a butcher shop, as we can see from the cuts of meat here.
Absolutely. That's our primary business, but we also have a lot more to offer, some baked goods and salads and cold cuts as well.
Yeah, heard some wonderful things. So, what we're here today is it's grilling season. So they say. For me, grilling season's all year round. I got a back deck. I bring the barbecue, open up the sliding glass door, and I cook in snowstorms. I don't care. But it's grilling season, and it's Father's Day. And Father's Day is that one day where Dad can pick out his steak, he can pick out his wine, he cooks his own meal. We do everything except clean up.
That's right.
So that's what we're here showing you guys today is cuts of meat, what they're about, how to pair them with wine. So I've been staring at these cuts for a while now. Tell me what we have here today.
All right, first up we have a porterhouse, which is a great blend of both worlds. You have your filet and your New York strip. You have a skirt steak and a ribeye.
So early today, we're going through all of this. Is one of my funnest things for the summertime and also grilling is the skirt steak.
Yes.
It's got great marbleization. It's got great flavor. It used to be a kind of much more inexpensive, but I guess now supply and demand has kicked it up. But
Correct.
People have found this. It's delicious. Why is it so delicious?
Well, it's both tender and juicy and flavorful all at the same time. It's quick to cook, about 3 minutes aside, and you have a nice steak. And then it's so versatile. You can marinate it. You can cook it plain. Like you said, nice chimichurri.
Yeah,
well.
Usually it's chimichurri, a nice Italian or ciabatta bread to go along with it. It's a lot of fun. What I do, and I don't know if you do the same thing, but I know it's always a long cut. So it goes from a little thin tip to a thicker tip. So I usually cut it in thirds so I can manage it on the grill, so I can flip it over and make sure I got the right temperature every time. And then you take it and then you cut against the grain.
Yes.
I have some chef friends that says you got to cut against the grain, and then you're set to go.
Yep.
Cool. Love that steak. Ribeye over there. That is my wife's favorite cut of meat.
It's my personal favorite as well.
Why?
Because it has the most flavor of all the steaks, really. It's both tender and flavorful. In fact, I had that for dinner last night, and it was absolutely delicious.
Now, we were talking, and I have some restaurant experience and stuff. I've always been told by fat is where the flavor is. So the ribeye is called the ribeye because of the big white circle of fat in there. Mm-hmm. Delicious. And we were also talking about cuts of meat and grades of meat. You guys specialize in prime.
In prime, correct. And to backtrack a little bit about the fat, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of questions that I have is people want a nice cut, but they don't want a lot of fat because we've always been told that the fat is bad for you. But in fact, that the fat is mostly monounsaturated fat, which is actually very good for you, and it can prevent heart disease. So the evil red meat is no longer a thing like it was in the past. But the prime, I actually brought a prime cut to show everybody the difference between prime and choice, which I picked up from the local grocery store. You can see the marbling is almost non-existent in the choice, as it is with the prime. So that marbling is going to give you a lot more flavor to it.
If I didn't know anything about meat and you put those two in front of me and you said pick one, I'd pick that one. It's just the way it looks, the cut, the thickness, the uniformity of it. It looks like there's more meat around it. It just seems.
Well, that's the difference between a professional butcher shop and a grocery store or supermarket. Also, with with prime, the age of the cow makes a big difference in texture of the meat. Like I was showing you before, I could almost put my finger through this ribeye. The choice piece, I couldn't even get my finger.
No, I've had some bad cuts of meat before, and the difference between the realization is I'm gonna have, honey, what do you want for dinner? I want a steak. Great. Nothing is worse in the world than a soggy pizza and a chewy steak, because you kind of look forward to it for the meal. Like, oh, go have a nice steak and get a bottle of wine, and all of a sudden it's like, I look at her, she looks at me, it's like, oh. Yeah, did you get the chewy part? Oh, I got the chewy part too. Nothing's more disappointing than a chewy piece of meat.
Absolutely.
So that's a nice point of difference between supermarket choice meat and prime, and then the big guy over here, which is kind of like difference. Kind of got the best of both worlds.
We have a lot of husbands and wives where the wives might like the fillet and the husband likes something with a little bit more flavor to it. You can get a nice porterhouse and share it, which is real nice. And for the differences between the choice and the prime, it's really only a few dollars when you really look at it. So if you're going to get a steak, why not make it a really nice one?
Totally,
for
totally
a few dollars
agreed.
more, you know.
And with the bone in, with the T-bone, Dad always got the T-bone. When I was growing up, we'd have a T-bone steak or a cut like this. He always got the bone, because the sweeter, the closer to the bone, is sweeter the meat. So
Absolutely.
that was always like goes to Dad. So what I liked about this is the fat on the outside protects the meat when you're cooking or grilling it. And then the bone in the middle also helps with the temperature, and that's where the best flavor is. And when we get one of these cakes, usually we cut it off the bone. She gets half the fillet, I get half the fillet, and then we slice up the steak in between. We eat the fillet first.
Absolutely, yeah. And the fillet on the bone is great compared to, the fillet just taken off the bone. The bone adds so much flavor and sweetness to it, like you said.
Yeah, that's even when you have even cooking chicken, whole chickens. Also, the same principle helps.
Absolutely.
So those are the cuts of meat. Now, we talked about the questions out there is Black Angus. Black Angus versus is a brand of cow. Doesn't really relate to quality. Well, prime, choice, those are distinctive cuts.
Yes.
Distinctive, not cuts, distinctive grades.
And you can go to any grocery store and you can look, and they'll insignia that you state prime shield. They'll let you know what you're buying. But you can usually just tell just by looking at it, pretty much. But
Right. And
I can at least.
with practice and understanding, you always, when you come to the wine shop, you come talk to us, talk about wines. Same thing, you go to the butcher, talk to the butcher. He's got.
True.
You're an expert in it, and that's why I have you in today, because I think it's a question that's really out there. What's the biggest question that you get when you work in the counter?
One of the biggest is, I have a large group of people over. Do I get a sirloin or do I get a London broil? That's a very big question that we get. If you cook a London broil perfectly and you cut it perfectly, it can be a very nice piece of meat, very inexpensive, but for only a few dollars more, a sirloin would be a really nice upgrade because it's more forgiving, has that more marbling, definitely a much more flavorful cut than the London broil. It's very lean. London broil is one of the leanest cuts.
Yeah, that's why I have to make sure my knife is really sharp, cut it really thin. But with a sirloin, we just hack it up, and then you cut it up yourself. But a London broil, someone's got to be very good and very sharp knife and make it thinner the better.
Yeah, I'd recommend the sirloin. Definitely, it's a big upgrade for if you're having a bunch of people. They're large steaks as well, so it's very very economical when it comes to feeding. I wouldn't feed 20 people with porterhouses. It'd be very expensive.
Squirrel that away. So I guess that's going to finish up our steak meat portions. Anything else that we missed?
For Father's Day this year, we're bringing out the tomahawk steak, which is a rib steak. It's got the rest of the bone, the rib bone on it. It makes great pictures and a lot of fun to eat.
The Fred Flintstone.
Yes, absolutely. But you have a bunch of wines here. You want to tell me a little bit about those?
Right on. So in conjunction with this informative instructional video, next week we're going to have Cabs for Dads wine tasting on Saturday, and these are the wines that we're going to be showing, and they do kind of match up what we have here today. My philosophy when people ask me, you know, what wine do they want with a steak, I ask them what cut of steak, what they like, and usually it boils down to soft meat, soft wines, hard meat, hard wines. That meaning the acidity, the tannin, the texture of the wine to go up against the cuts of meat. So with the shell steak, hard meat, hard wine, I like Cabernet Sauvignons. If they're young, that's okay because you have that tension, that acidity to go along with it. With the skirt steaks, usually it's more of a casual setting for myself. So I'm going to look at something that's fun and interesting, like this the Spanish wine that we're in our glass right now.
Very delicious.
Something that has spice, high-toned fruit, that's not really overly dry in the mouth, but even though it's a dry wine, and that would be like the Big Easy blend and an Old Vine Zinfandel. You know, something that's a little bright and airy. And the ribeye is turn up the phone, send the kid to the babysitter, dim the lights. That's like the granddaddy. So with the ribeye, I want something really nice, not overly dry like a young Cabernet. I go Old Vine Cabernet. I do a Bordeaux blend. I would do even like a Syrah blend. You know, make a real fun meal out of, you know, like you're going out to dinner, like you're going to Teller's. You know, that's I'm going to build a meal around that. And the wines really have to, you know, kind of complement it. And one of the biggest things when your question is, I don't like something too dry, but when you're having a steak, that dryness, that tannin is necessary so that last bite of steak is interesting as that first bite of steak. And instead of like dousing with tons of salt and pepper, you use that wine as that little palate cleanser. Right. And that third component, awesome meat, awesome wine, that goes together. There should be a third level of flavor above that. That's how you know when you did it right.
Well, I tried to grasp a lot of what you were saying, but hopefully there'll be someone here to guide me. That's, I guess, one of the advantages of coming to a store like this. Between myself and my staff, we have over 50 years in the food and wine business, and what we do all day long is people ask us, "What do you drink?" It's not what I'm drinking. I'm not, unless you're inviting me. So, what do you normally drink? What's for dinner? You know, and then we guide the people from there. You know, it's all about the customer service. This is Wading River. You know. Absolutely. So, thanks, Frank. This was a pleasure. So, the Wading River Market phone number? It's 929-1000. And you're just not even a mile away from here. Not even a mile. And you're open all day till 6:30, 4 p.m. on Sundays. And for Father's Day orders for the Tomahawk Chalk, you should call and reserve that. Absolutely. We have a few loins, but definitely reserve yours as soon as you can. So make sure you get it for Father's Day. Right. Also have nice dry age as well. Definitely, Father definitely enjoy it. I'm looking forward already. What are you gonna have for Father's Day, George? I'm gonna have one of these steaks. Well, not these. I'll buy it in a couple of days. But maybe that even Tomahawk Chalk, because you know I deserve it. Yes, absolutely. So thanks again. See you soon.